Hello, do I have a deal for you today? You're getting a 2-for-1 special. I'm going to go through question 6 and question 10. And the reason why is because question 10 is all about question 6. So I have to do question 6 to make sense of question 10. That's why we're doing it. We're going to begin by talking about question 6a, which says write a rule for these matchstick patterns. X is equal to the number of squares and Y is equal to the number of matchsticks. We're going to begin by creating a table of values. So we've got X and we have Y. Let's draw it up like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, how many squares do I have here? I have 1 square. What about for this one? I have 2 squares. What about this one? I have 1, 2, 3 squares. And then what about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So I filled out all my values of X here, because remember, X is equal to number of squares, and this is saying, well, X is equal to 1, X is equal to 2, X is equal to 3, X is equal to 4. All right, let's keep on moving along here. Let's now go through Y. Y is saying the number of matchsticks. Well, how many matchsticks do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4 matchsticks here. How many matchsticks do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matchsticks here. What about this one? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matchsticks. I have 10 matchsticks there. And then if we count all of these up, you would find out we have 13. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a rule for this. And we know how to create rules. This says write a rule for these matchstick patterns. The way in which you create a rule is you say, well, I have Y is equal to some coefficient of X, so AX, I don't know what A is yet, but it's my coefficient of X, and then some constant as well. So we need to figure out what the coefficient of X is, and we need to figure out what the constant is. And I'm just letting them be represented by A and C there. How do I figure out what my coefficient of X is going to be? Well, what I do is I simply look at my Y values, and I say, well, because my X's are increasing by 1 each time, I just need to see what the difference in my Y values are. And it's quite clear that I'm plussing 3 each time. So because I'm plussing 3, that means I come over here and 3 is my coefficient of X. And then to see what my C value is, remember what you do here is you find out, well, first you look for whether or not you have an X value equal to 0, and we don't. So because we don't have an X value equal to 0, we can't see what the corresponding Y value is going to be. So that means we're going to have to substitute a point in. So I'm going to write here, sub in a point to find C. And it doesn't matter which of these points we choose, but I always choose the littlest numbers because it's easy. So let's sub in 1, 4. So I put 4 in the Y spot. I put 1 here plus C. Whoop. 3 times 1 is 3. So 4 is equal to 3 plus C. And now I need to figure out what C is by itself. Let me just quickly move this question. Move a bit further down. To find out what C is by itself, I'm going to have to subtract both sides by 3. Minus 3. That's a funny looking 3. Minus 3. Minus 3. And that means I'm going to get 4 minus 3 is 1. This side, the 3's go away, so I've just got C here. So that means 1 is equal to C. So I can come up here and I can replace this with 1. So my answer is going to be Y is equal to 3x plus 1. I have created a rule for the matchstick pattern. So the answer to the first one is Y is equal to 3x plus 1. Okay, let's now move on to B. And in this question, we have to talk about question 10 as well. So this is kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. So if you're here for question 10, you're in luck. This is where I'm going to talk about question 10 as well. But before we can talk about question 10, we actually have to do question B here. I'm going to have to do a bit of rearranging. I think I'm going to have to move everything here down. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me move that down. All right, because I'm going to need a bit more room. We're going to do the same thing we did above. So we need to create a table of values for this before we can create our rule. So remember, X is the amount of hexagons this time, and Y is the amount of matchsticks that we have. So I'm going to rule it up like this. And let's begin. I have 1 shape, I have 2 shapes, I have 3 shapes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 shapes. Then how many matchsticks do I have per shape? Now, this is where we've got to make sure that we don't mess up the counting. Well, these are hexagons. So I know how many it's going to have. It's going to be 6, but let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Then we come to our next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then if you were to keep on counting, or if you notice a pattern, you can say that this next one is going to be 16. And then this final one, if you were to count them all up, you would find out that it's going to be 21. So now what we need to do is the same thing that we did before. We're going to say, well, we need to find what the rule is here. And I know that my rule is made up of a constant, a coefficient of x, which we will call a, and then a constant, which we will call c. To figure out what the coefficient of x is going to be, so to figure out what the a value is, what we need to do is figure out what the difference in the y's are. Because my x's are increasing by 1s, what is the difference in my y's? Well, from 6 to 11, it's plus 5. From 11 to 16, it's plus 5. From 16 to 21, it's plus 5. So that means this a here is going to be a 5. And then to find what my c value is going to be, what I'm going to have to do is sub in a point. And I'm going to sub in my littlest point here. I'm going to sub in 1, 6 to find c. It's always good to write down a little explanation of what you're doing. So that means I'm going to put a 6 into the y spot. I'm going to put a 1 there plus c. 6 is equal to 5 plus c. I now need to get that c by itself. So I'm going to subtract both sides by 5. 6 minus 5 is, drumroll, 1. And this will be c. So that means I can come up here now and I can replace this c with a 1. So my answer to this, the rule, will be y is equal to 5x plus 1. That is my rule. All right, this is where we're going to pause for a second and look at question 10. We're going to look at question 10. What is the best way to do this? Let me bring it down a bit. Let me get rid of that. Question 10 says, let me just zoom right in here. Question 10 says, in 6a, so that was the question that we did before that one, you can observe that 3 extra matchsticks are needed for each new shape, and 1 matchstick is needed to complete the first square. So the rule is y is equal to 3x plus 1. In a similar way, describe how many matchsticks are needed for the shapes in question 6b. Let's first look at this little description that they've given us here. They've said you need 3 extra matchsticks for each new shape, and 1 matchstick is needed to complete the first square. So you need 3 each time, but you need to start with 1 for that to be true. And if you look here for a second, you can see what they mean. So let me get rid of all this, and let's just have a look of what they mean here. They're saying that you need to start with 1 matchstick. That one right there. And then what you're doing is you're just adding 3 matchsticks to it. And then to go to the next shape, well, you're just adding 3 matchsticks again. And then you're just adding 3 matchsticks again. So each time, the way that you're adding a new shape is by adding 3 matchsticks, but you need to start with shape 1 with 1 already there. So you need 1 matchstick in order for this to be true. And you can also think about it in terms of our rule, y equals 3x plus 1, to get the amount of matchsticks when x is equal to 1, so the number of squares. So when x is equal to 1, that's a funny looking thing. When x is equal to 1, that means y is equal to 3, 1 plus 1. And if you don't have that plus 1 there, you're not going to end up with a full square to get you 4. So with all of this in mind now, let's have a look here. And let's figure out if we can generate our own rule for this. We already know what the rule is, but we're kind of just like writing it down in words now for question 10a. We're just kind of writing down what we know, because we know the rule is y is equal to 5x plus 1. Well, this 5 is telling me you need to add 5 for each new shape. So it's saying add 5 for each new shape. And this 1 here is telling me you need to start with one matchstick in order to create that first shape. So start with one matchstick. And if you then come and look at our hexagons here, if you start with one, then you're just adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then to get a new shape, you just add 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're just adding 5 each time, but you need to start with 1 in order for that to be true. So your answer to this one is, now I've just copied it straight from the back because I didn't want to write all this out. That would take me forever. 5 extra matchsticks are needed for each new shape. And that's what we said. And 1 matchstick is needed to complete the first hexagon. Therefore, the rule is y equals 5x plus 1. And that's the thinking behind it. So it's really just getting you to write in words what the rule is saying to us. All right, let's now move onto this one. Whoa, my computer just freaked out there a second. That's all right. And after we've finished doing this one, I'll then look at 10b. Sorry, my computer's having a bit of an off moment. I might need to stop and re-record this bit if it doesn't work with me. No, I think it's cooperating now. Good. We need to figure out the number of matchsticks on the top row. Ooh, this one is a little different. The number of matchsticks on the top row and y is the number of matchsticks. Okay, so we're still going to create our table of values. 1, 2, 3, 4. I then am going to go, well, how many matchsticks do I have? Number of matchsticks on the top row. Well, I have 1 matchstick on the top row here. Here, I have 2 matchsticks on the top row. Here, I have 3 matchsticks on the top row. And then on the last one, I have 4 matchsticks on the top row. And then it wants the number of matchsticks in total. Well, this looks like another hexagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 here. For the next one here, how many matchsticks do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we keep on going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can probably notice they're going up by 2. So my next one is going to be 12. But you could count them up if you wanted to double check that as well. Now we're going to create our rule for this. Remember, our rule is y is equal to the coefficient of x. So a is the coefficient of x, then plus some constant. To find out what our coefficient of x is, we're going to see what our difference in y is as our x increases by 1. So you're plussing 2 each time. So that means my a here is going to be 2. And then we need to sub in a point to find what my c value is going to be. So I'm going to sub in the point 1, 6, sub in 1, 6 to find c. I put a 6 here. 2, 1 plus c. 6 is equal to 2 plus c. I then need to subtract 2 from both sides to find what c is going to be. Subtract 2, subtract 2. So that means I'm going to get 4 is equal to c. And now I can come up here and I can rub out this c and I can put a 4 there. Oh, let's do that in green, just to keep our colors consistent. And that is your answer for that right there. Y is equal to 2x plus 4. This is quite a long video. We're 13 minutes in. All right, let's now look at question 6c. 6c is asking us to kind of verbalize what is happening in this rule. So we need to look at this rule and say, well, what's happening? How many extra matchsticks do you need each time? You need 2 extra matchsticks for each new shape. You need 2 extra matchsticks for each shape. That's what that 2 is telling you. Now, what's the 4 telling you? The 4 is saying you need 4 matchsticks to complete the first shape. So 4 matchsticks are needed for the sides to complete the first shape. You need, that's a funny looking need. You need 4 to complete first shape. And if we think about that for a second, what it's saying is, because you're adding 2 each time, if I can rub all this out, because you're adding 2 each time, you need to start with 1, 2. Actually, yeah, we can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're adding 2. And then you can kind of think of, all right, there, my 4 there. And then I've got the 2 that I added. Then you're just adding 2 again. And then each time you're just adding 2 each time. It probably doesn't work as visually as nicely as the top ones, but just by looking at the rule, you can decipher that. All right, and then here is your written answer here. And it's exactly what we've said over here. 2 extra matchsticks are needed for each new shape, just like we said over here. And 4 matchsticks are needed to complete the first shape. So again, you're just really verbalizing what the rule is saying. That's why it says, therefore, the rule is y equals 2x plus 4. All right, that is everything, guys. Hopefully that made sense. Going through all of that, quite a long video. We're 16 minutes in. Hopefully you just skipped to the parts that you needed, and hopefully you enjoyed this. I will see you in the next one.